One water race for me personally is just a huge endurance challenge, mentally, physically. You learn a lot about yourself in those situations, and it's just the whole experience that gets me going and gets me back.
I think I want to do one water because it's the first race in a long time that genuinely terrifies me. You can literally push your body and mind to its absolute limits.
I think sometimes it's just crazy that we're even trying to do this. But then I also love to see what the limit is there, so I think that's what draws me back each time, and just to see what I'm capable of.
I want to do one water race to execute a perfect teamwork with this team. This year, that's my absolutely main focus.
2 years ago, I heard about one water race. I really thought that's something you would never want to do, and since then, there was like something in the back of my mind saying, there's something you're like backing off from.
To be able to conduct research on one water race is a unique opportunity for me as a scientist.
I think I was about 6 years old when me and my father was out here in the Stockholm Archipelago, and we saw the Swedish Navy combat divers. And then I realized I want to become one. And at 19, I joined them. And that has been absolutely the most important part of my life. Not at least to realize that we are capable of so much more than we think. And that has been the very inspiration for the creation of One Water Race.
I have created a race with 250 k's of distance.
This race is a beautiful, dark beast.
I want to find out what we humans are capable of, both from a physical but also from a mental perspective.
It's the hardest race in the world.
I'm not quitting.
Is it possible for humans to run, swim and navigate a total distance of 6 marathons? Non-stop, day and night, without sleep for more than 50 hours. I mean, where's the limit?
One of the toughest things humanly possible.
What is the ultimate proof of human capacity?
The best location in the world for this race is the archipelago of Stockholm. It's the world's largest archipelago with more than 30,000 islands. It's a unique environment and one of the most fascinating landscapes on Earth. But it's not always as nice as it looks. It can quickly change into a nightmare, and the racers must prepare for severe weather conditions and currents.
And not at least in the darkness, it's pitch black.
And on top of this, they have to struggle with hypothermia. But I would say that the biggest challenge of them all is to stay awake for more than 50 hours.
So one of the unique things with One Water Race and having the claim to be the toughest race in the world, there's so many elements that are added together that make it a race that's capable of taking that claim. Glenn Wilkinson, Team 3 Australia from Didilibar in Queensland. So there's the distance that potentially is too long to go without sleep, but too short to really warrant a big sleep. So it's a fine line how you juggle and manage that rest element of the race. We're in southeast Queensland, Australia, and then the suburb we're in is called the Didilibar. I live here with Hayley, my partner, and little Lenny, who's 7 weeks old. And so yeah, just the three of us, which is great.
I'm self-proclaimed #1 fan of One Water Race. I got so into it because the first year I went over and watched it, and then the second year I was on holidays and pregnant with Lenny, so I had nothing to do except for watch 60 hours of these guys racing. I got very hooked to it. I think it was the best reality TV I've watched ever.
I think the sleep deprivation side of things is a mind game ultimately, and being aware of what you're going through and how you deal with it, and reading the signs as well. Our first year, we did plan to sleep and didn't end up sleeping.
You fucking done it though, haven't you? How's your longest swim ever, Rob?
And then the second year we did have a sleep, but not for long.
Here we are, about to take it on. I describe Danziger Gut as this, you get in the water and you swim for an hour and it looks the same as when you started an hour ago.
So for me, I had a crazy moment of sleep deprivation during the Danziger Gut swim. About halfway through that long swim, I started having time where I didn't know whether I was actually sleeping or I was awake. The body's rolling and you're in this, this methodical state, and you start to, I certainly question whether I was sleeping or I was actually awake in periods of that. Look at that wave. Then you'd hear Julian chirping away at us in the boat, and you'd sort of, oh yeah, I'm still with it. But yeah, that certainly for me, that was a challenge to work through that.
Woo! You did it! Yes! Almost got cleaned up by the ferry, huh?
Another interesting thing, which I haven't experienced before, and I'm assuming is linked to sleep deprivation. For 2 to 3 weeks after the race, every time I closed my eyes and slept, my mind was vividly replaying the race. So I could hear the drones in the sky, I could hear Julian in the boat,
You swim past the
and my body felt like I was still moving and swimming or running, and like I'd wake up every morning and felt like I'd been back in the race. I'd never really had that before, but again, that's 60 hours without sleep. It did take me a long time to sort of come right and shake that dream, or wouldn't call it nightmare, but replay that I was going through.
We're at Smith Rock State Park, one of my favorite places to run just because of the beautiful scenery. And we're gonna go for a little run along the river. I mean, with One Water, whether you're prepared for it or not, there's gonna be cold nights, there's gonna be cold water. It could be cold and rainy during the day, you just don't know. And hypothermia is definitely a factor for all of us.
My name is Kayla Kobolin. I am part of Team 2 USA, and I am from Bend, Oregon.
I have a lot of experience with the cold. With cold water, I would say I'm definitely a little more sensitive, so I need to train in cold water more. I need to be really particular about what gear I choose and what gear I don't choose and how I suit up for those night swims. I think when I got more serious about training, I thought about, okay, where would I move? And Bend definitely came to mind. So I made the leap, came down here, and I think it was the best decision ever. I think it's just really great to be in a town where no matter how old or young you are, everyone has this general idea of just like wanting to be outdoors and having that like work-life balance. And it's awesome. I wouldn't move anywhere else. My experience with endurance races and hypothermia, I know all too well. I did a triathlon a few years ago in Germany where I didn't have the right wetsuit. It was very cold that day and the water was very cold. I finished the swim, but next thing I know, I was in the back of an ambulance. And I ended up in the hospital with hypothermia for quite a few hours, being like wrapped up in these special blankets and monitoring me to make sure that I didn't warm up too quickly. So it's definitely something I've always thought of, not just when it comes to racing, but when it comes to just training. I feel really lucky having cold water in my backyard and being able to use that to my advantage. But it's still something that I've always had in the back of my head that I never want to have happen again. And even though I was prepared, it still happened to me, which is scary. So Bend, if you don't know, is like a beer town. I think we have over like 40 breweries just in our very small town, which is a lot.
Oh, that's so good.
I think it's super important to kind of have this balance of like, yeah, you train hard, but I also think it's important to just like relax, hang out, have a beer with your friends, like for your mental and like emotional state.
It's so funny.
I guess the good thing about being an athlete is like you really only need to drink one beer, and I'm pretty buzzed after that.
In a race like One Water Race, it's obviously a big topic about hitting the wall or bonking, as some people refer to it as. Of course, it can happen to anyone, but in such a long race like One Water Race, it's possible to come back from bonking or hitting the wall. It's not sort of the end of your race.
My name is Adriel Young from Team 6, Sweden, Australia, and I'm currently living in Mölnlycke, Sweden.
The most important thing for a team is not everyone has a dip at the same time, so that's why it's so good racing in a team over these long distances. You can help each other out. You see when someone's having it tough, that's your turn to step up as a teammate and help them come out of that tough situation.
It's ridiculous. Why do I do this? Rubbish.
When you're out there and you've been out there for 2 days, it's definitely something that pops up in your mind. You're like, oh, why do I put myself through this?
Oh, my shoulders are so sore.
So when they talk about hitting the wall or bonking, I think it's really important to be aware of your body so that you know when you're coming close to that, because I know when I'm getting close to that threshold there.
Nej, jag kan inte simma ner. Jag är helt kört. Ja, men då springer du. Kan leda om du vill. Ja.
And I know I either need to slow down, eat more. You know, it's really important to change the pace. It's really, really important when you're racing in a team is to let your teammates know how you're feeling.
I told you we could just still have a chance.
You guys are doing amazing. So
I'm not okay though, Jason.
I know.
Because if you're close to that and they want to push, they need to know where you are, otherwise it's just going to end badly.
I'm only crying because I knew we wouldn't make 12. And I'm trying to push.
I think every athlete's different, but I think a lot of the athletes, they know exactly with their watches and their pace and all this and the heart rate of how they push their body. But for me, it's just all by feel, and I've always done that, so it's easy for me to feel how I'm doing. So I'm sure there's a lot of other athletes that I don't know that do the same, but for me, it just works to not chase those numbers all the time and just listen to my body. Hey, princess. Oh. I live here with my wife and now 2 kids.
Hello.
Me and my wife, Caro, we met in 2007, and then we were living in Australia. For 5 years there, we lived together, and before we decided to come over and try Sweden.
Adriel, as an athlete, like his strength is definitely the mental part. He is really stubborn and he doesn't give in. He will be out there until he finishes what he set out to do.
My wife says that I'm stubborn, and I think that helps me get through when the going gets tough. I like to think the tough get going, and you know, those tougher people that can just push through, and that's, I guess, my superpower. But standing on a start line like we have at One Water Race, there's 8 teams full of people with that, you know, that mental capacity to push through when it's getting tough.
I think it's great to live with Adrian. He loves to push everyone in the family to follow their dreams and do what they love, and I think it's really cool, and I think it's a nice inspiration for our girls as well.
The most important part of one water race is the team, and that's also why I'm triggered and excited for this race. I love the dynamics of team sports and building the dream team.
My name is Marika. I live in Falun and I'm competing with Team 4 Sweden.
During a hard race like this, where everything is put to the limit, you need trust. And you won't build that trust in the middle of a storm. Trust is something you need to build in a team in beforehand. I think to build this trust for a strong team, it's important to have pretty clear roles. When I race with the team and I have a role, I want to know what's the expectation. When I have that, I perform so much better. Because when I know what's expected from me, I'm highly motivated to do that really well. And also when I know what other people's roles are, I'm also highly motivated to help them do their role to their best. Last year's One Water Race team was my best team experience ever.
Vilken jävla swimrun-kväll vi har!
We really pushed each other forward in a positive way.
Jag sover gärna. Ser aldrig när jag sover lite.
Nu är du sugen på det, va?
Mm. Det är jag får inte.
Det kommer du absolut inte få.
For a long race like this, we need to communicate. And you need to create that space where you feel safe to say, I feel like shit. If you share the burden, it will be easier. And I think you can do that without spreading any negative energy.
Ta det lite lugnt nu.
Ja.
Vi äter och så får Robban visa. Sen tar vi som det ser ut. Så inga tätt och skrik på.
There was never a moment where I didn't feel trusted in any decision, or no time I felt like I wasn't enough or I didn't contribute enough, and that feeling made me grow stronger throughout the race.
Rätt, världens bästa lag.
Swimming in the dark is definitely one of the biggest challenges for me, because just thinking about like being out there with the team and with the boat and just in the open water is like so much fun, but also at the same time so much fear. My name is Vincent Meyer from Honos, competing for Team 5 Germany. When you swim in the night, it's like all the instincts come on. Your senses are more sensitive, like if there's a branch or a leaf that come on your fingers. I'm now embracing that, like diving literally into unknown waters, dark and cold ones. Basically, my swimming background is not existent. I started swimming this year as preparation for the race, and I think that's maybe also the main reason why I got into the One Water Race, because it's this unknown component which I wanted to figure out if I can actually do it as well, which I haven't done before. Anglers and I pretty much were raised in the same house for the first 2 years, and then my parents moved out, but only like 800 meters away. So we pretty much spent our whole youth together, like playing any sport.
He was always like my older brother, at least it felt like it, and I'm super happy to have him around. He always was the one who supported me in all terms of, he always helped me to push my boundaries in so many things. And yeah, that's what I'm really grateful for.
Really nice for me to have like a training buddy so close by. And we could like meet in the mornings, do pedaling, running, biking, just whatever.
Even funny that it takes like over 30 years now that we can experience that together, to represent Germany together and participate on the One Water Race.
Overall good experience. The water was, I think, warmer than the air. Dark, definitely something I have to get used to. Like a little fog on the water, so even if I look up, not that much visibility. So I didn't like see the edges of the canal. But now with like having people around and anglers in the kayak next to me, definitely gives some safety to know you're not alone in the water. When I trained alone in the dark, it's definitely a bit more spooky. So for me, it was a really fun session.
One Water Race is unique in the aspect that it involves experienced top-level athletes and also combines the distance, the duration, sleep deprivation, the environment with the cold and the heat and the wind. My name is Marcus Moberg, and I'm an associate professor at the Swedish School of Sports and Health Sciences in Stockholm, Sweden. And also, they have to have a very good nutrition plan, combined with the orienteering part, where you have to be really focused throughout the time to find the optimal path.
Today we're in Stockholm at the Swedish School of Sport and Health Science. We're going to meet Marcus Moberg. He's a professor here, and they're a partner of One Water Race for this year. And they're going to do a massive study on all the athletes.
For me as a researcher, it's very unique to get the access to these athletes. These are top-level athletes in their sport. First of all, we're gonna put on the sensors to see that they function as they're supposed to do. So we'll have continuous glucose monitors on their belly, and also similar ones that picks up blood ketones. We're also able to monitor their core temperature and also the skin temperature throughout the race. And then of course we'll have heart rate monitors. So you're just gonna pump up your veins a little bit. And in addition to the sensors, we will draw blood before and after the race. We will also look at damage markers, sort of if your muscle, your brain, the heart has taken strain. So I learned quite a lot from participating last year and doing the research.
Christina, what about the water temperature this year?
It's okay.
So what I have been measuring now on Christine is her core temperature. She was freezing quite a lot. Her hands were blue, lips, even the ears were quite blue, so she was shivering quite a lot. One aspect was that we were able to pick up fever from one participant before the participant started, which we realized afterwards, but that we will be able to monitor this year.
Should I put that suit on?
I expected the body temperature to drop quite low, but I was surprised to see that they maintained quite well their core temperature.
The second you get up and you're standing still and it's cold.
A lot of them feel a lot of cold during the race, shivering of course, but it doesn't seem to be critical as long as they stay active. But that will of course depend on weather conditions and everything this year. Yeah, so the vision and the future of this field, I think, is of course big data handling and AI interpretation of that, and also from a viewer experience that you can get closer to the sport itself. But it's a great enhanced viewer experience, and also for now I think the athletes will benefit a lot from gaining their own data.
It was a pleasure to be part of this, and we're going to keep being part of this study, which I believe will be some really exciting research.
I'm very fond of the race directory and their willingness to support the research. They also see the future and development, so we're building this together. That's important for me.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!